So Species, The Flash Season 5's finale, did it set up Crisis like Arrow did? What was the Reverse Flash like when he escaped? Did it meet expectations? Well, let's go over all of this in The Flash Season 5 Episode 22 finale, Legacy. What is up, Species? Welcome to a brand new Flash video. Now, this is my last review of the season, obviously, because it's the finale. And I was kind of pleasantly surprised by this finale, only because, you know, this season, as we all know, hasn't been, like, the greatest in terms of plot holes and just, you know, this, that, and the other. Like, some people don't think that Cicada was the greatest villain, which is quite a universal feeling, whether you think he was average or just really bad. He wasn't the best villain we've had all season. Now, this episode wasn't perfect. Sorry, the finale wasn't perfect. But there were still some moments that I really appreciated in it. So, you know, as this is the finale, I've got a shite ton to say about it. So let's get straight into this video. But of course, if you want to stay up to date with more Flash content just like this going into Season 6, be sure to subscribe to the channel and stay subscribed. If you've enjoyed my breakdowns all season and you go on to enjoy this video as well, go ahead and hit that like button, as it really does make a difference to the channel. So as we all know, guys, from the penultimate episode of the season, the dagger was being thrown, Barry was about to shoot it, and I concluded in my trailer breakdown, just because the dagger was still glowing, that Ralph surely has to stop it, or somehow it doesn't get destroyed. And lo and behold, it continues on from that cliffhanger, and Ralph jumps in the way. But he also gets hit by the mirror gun blast, which kind of, as they put it in Star Labs, reverses all of his cells. So that was quite an interesting feature to the episode. But either way, the dagger didn't get destroyed. And of course, guys, I'm not going to get into this, but Cicada picks up the dagger. And yes, I'm saying Cicada over Grisada because people just think I'm pronouncing it wrong, but Grace. Grisada, but fine, Cicada, I'll do it for you guys. Of course, Grace flew away. You know what, at this point, I don't really care. It's just, you know what I mean. Thanks to Sherlock, Team Flash finally realized Ralph's worth in how he's solved the greatest mystery of all time, and how if they destroy the dagger now, it will, of course, you know, render the dagger useless in the future, thus making Eobard Thorn free. But this also led into that whole Reverse Flash future scene. The guard brought him like the Flash ring from the Flash Museum, and just I knew the second that happened, I was like, well, he's just gonna be looking at you. Well, Eobard was looking at the security guards like, thank you. So in terms of all the future stuff with the Reverse Flash that I'll get onto a little bit later, this was going down exactly the way I wanted it to, and you may know that already from watching my trailer breakdown. I detailed extensively how I really wanted the Flash to treat the Reverse Flash in this finale episode. So at this point in the episode, we need to discuss Cisco and Camilla, and I'm going to attach the end stuff with Cisco on this because I may as well talk about it now. So we did see him at one point in the episode because of Caitlin. They were definitely but setting all of this up to the point where I was getting quite nervous how exactly it was going to go down, because the episode did kind of a flip of the coin. They wanted to make you think that maybe he was staying, and I thought that could have been the case as well in terms of how they introduced this storyline this season, just giving Carlos Valdez perhaps the choice to leave if he wants to, but they could easily write it in if he wants to stay, like the scene we saw. So for example, how Carla actually thought, you know, I've read a load of comic books, you know, I get it, I wouldn't have even expected you to tell me this right away. So she was just like, you know, if you want to have the powers, that's fine with me. So it looked like he was going to stay, and this led up with a couple of updates to that, and how apparently he said he was going to stay behind the scenes. But lo and behold, guys, at the end of the episode, he takes the cure. Now, I'm not really happy with this in terms of story, but at the same time, I completely understand how, you know, if an actor wants to leave, Carlos wants to leave, he's going to leave, whether you think the character would do this or not. He, as I already said, probably would regret it in the future, or from my understanding of the character. But yet again, this is one of those situations where I just concluded that, you know, it's the actor wants to leave, so the writer writes it down on the page, and so it's a written thing. It's going to happen, and I think that's the only way we can digest it, because other than that, I really don't think Cisco would really do this. But it's a case of real life things affecting a show. So it goes without saying, guys, I'm absolutely gutted over this. Carlos or Cisco was one of my favorite things about The Flash, but I just trust that they'll replace his character in terms of like a new regular maybe next season with somebody who fits in the team just as well. But we're gonna have to wait and see. In between all of this stuff, Team Flash were trying to locate Cicada through that little wooden fragment, and they could tell through the trees and stuff. Like this is kind of like a callback to how they found where Cicada was with Sherlock, knowing everything about everything. The true master detective, even though it's Ralph. But either way, guys, this is where they're all marching into Cicada's cabin. We have Nora detailing the plan at the same time with regards to how they're going to trap Cicada to give young Grace, the choice to take the cures. And in this moment, it just gives me an opportunity to how easy it kind of was to trap Grace. As I said, guys, I don't want to ruin this or burst everyone's bubble, but for example, you know when Joe threw the interdimensional extrapolator at Grace, all it did is it took Joe to trap Grace in that, that room in Star Labs that trapped the Reverse Flash in season 1. I just wrote down in my notes, did nobody ever think at any point in the season to toss the interdimensional extrapolator at Grace, and if it just breaches her into a cell or a containment thing like that, problem solved at any point in the season. But okay, whatever. But kudos to Cicada / Grace. I mean, she is overpowered in a way, so she escapes that. But at the same time, we have Nora connecting to young Grace in her mind. I like how they introduced two versions of Orlin, like one's evil, one's normal, and ultimately Grace chose the right decision, and that is to take the cure. But that doesn't really matter because the dark energy in her head is powerful enough to render the cure useless in a way, so that needs to be gotten rid of first. But of course they didn't know that as of the end of last episode, but from this point onwards, of course, the dagger needed to be destroyed, and so it was, and this also erased Grace, or the Cicada Grace that we knew of for the kind of back half of this season, from existence. Now, speedsters, to the very juicy part of the episode that I really was looking forward to. I think we all were, to be honest. As, of course, the dagger got destroyed, what does this mean for the future? That Eobard Thawne was technically free. So I loved how the security guard, just like what we saw in the trailer, starts to pull the lever, and in that moment the lightning is about to touch his face, but of course he is instantly lit up, connected to the negative speed force. And honestly, I didn't expect to call it like this, but in my trailer breakdown I was just like, I want him to snap everyone's neck, leaving that other security guard to a last, and this is exactly how it went down. So maybe I was just thinking exactly the only way it could go in terms of what the writers did think of, because if it went any other way, it would be such a disservice to the Reverse Flash. So maybe that's the only reason I got it right, because it's like such a no-brainer that they had to do it in the exact way they did. I was such a sucker for that Reverse Flash symbol, but made through the dagger that was pressed against his chest. That was just such great design. But this is when everything reverses. Barry and Nora have that conversation with the Reverse Flash, and how obviously they figured everything out was because of Thawne and his plan this whole time. I also appreciated that little drop from the Reverse Flash and how this is actually his second time in just time in general, and how he's been stuck against his will for 15 years. I loved the callback to the mid-season finale. We all knew that would be significant at some point or another this season, and it exactly was. Because Nora blurted out the word cicada, he knew exactly what to do to undo it all when, eventually he got captured and put into Ironhide. It all just fell in to a perfect line of dominoes, really. To be honest with everyone, and maybe you feel the same, at this point all I'm doing is praising everything, because this is what I've been waiting for all season. Like, I didn't want to be one of those guys who put down the main villain, but at a certain point in season 5, I did jump on that bandwagon, because, we all do kind of care about Reverse Flash more than, unfortunately, the disappointing villain of season 5, that is Cicada. But the next part was really cool with XS and Flash versus Reverse Flash. He was running throughout the central city. He created that speed mirage to confuse them both. That was amazing. And then, of course, guys, we had Team Flash versus Reverse Flash, and this was just epic within itself, because Team Flash absolutely rinsed the Reverse Flash. And Cisco, this is what I mean. Your boy Cisco, look at him pluck those breaches left, right, and center, and just, as I said, rinse the floor with, or should I say mop the floor with the Reverse Flash. This was so cool. This is what I mean in terms of Cisco. I just don't believe that he would not regret curing these powers forever. You could have just made him leave the show with the powers, but then I guess some fans would argue, oh, but he would still be like burdened by the responsibility of having breaching powers and stuff like that. I was kind of surprised to see Nora about to negative Speed Force kill the Reverse Flash, and this is when she was starting to cease to exist. Now, I'm not gonna pretend to be shocked here. That was like one of the all-time original theories of this season. I've said it one way or the other, it's going to be such a bittersweet season because this daughter gets to know her father, but ultimately whether she runs back to the future or gets erased from time, it's going to be sad. And that was the case. I mean, I wasn't mega sad for some reason, just because like I knew that it won't be the same Nora, but whatever Nora they do have, it is still going to be like a Nora, like their daughter, but it's, you know, still sad within itself. I guess just because as well that this is all kind of because of Nora, and they had that conversation with Barry and Nora this episode about, she even used one of the lines that Barry said to her this episode in that specific moment about owning your mistakes, or like, you know, just carrying on but despite the consequences, or owning it or whatever. And that is exactly what she was doing. So the explanation we did get is that, of course, due to a new timeline setting in because of the dagger being destroyed, meant that, you know, this Nora doesn't exist, but also the line saying see you in our next crisis is a bit like, you know, and he had the hype eyes up as well, just teasing Barry. Just made me laugh because we all know, I mean, we had crisis set up this episode, of course, right at the very end, but that was also a little bit of crisis setup from Eobard. Also, before I forget, that line from the Reverse Flash saying, you know, Barry, the Flash will always disappear, Nora, that's another setup as well, just saying how, that will never change, Barry will always go missing, but it's actually ironic in terms of how, it's just foreshadowing how he's really not going to go missing because it's going to be Oliver Queen, but of course this Reverse Flash hasn't taken the whole Oliver Queen sacrifice to the multiverse into account. So ultimately, Nora disappears. She doesn't want to go into the negative Speed Force because otherwise it would be like consuming a part of her forever. I totally get it. But also, you know, it's kind of poetic in a way, and sadly poetic in how, yet again, guys, the Reverse Flash, as he kind of said, like a trade-in or something, like a video game, has taken another Nora from Barry Allen. So you really have to think how salty Barry must be right now. Even though, as we all know, they're still going to get another Nora, but it's pretty messed up. Like, this is the second time. Now we're at the closing kind of parts of the episode, and we got like a montage of multiple things, like Sherlock leaving Team Flash. Adieu, Sherlock. You've been a good Wells. I can't wait to see what's going on next season. Thank God nothing's happening with the rumor in terms of Tom Cavanaugh potentially leaving as well, because he's played so many characters. But nope, nothing apparently as of that right now, so I assume we're still getting a good old Wells next season. We also had that Captain Singh moment, which was really cool because he's now becoming the chief of police, and your Papa Joe is becoming captain. And we also got the reveal that Captain Singh is like, no shit, Sherlock, of course I knew Barry, you were the Flash, which is just like a cool little thing anyway. It's just like it's nice to know. Obviously, there was a lot of like mental like fallout and mourning for Nora, even though at the same time it was weird because they weren't, because they knew they would get Nora, but it was a nice kind of tie-in. I will say it's very typical, I feel, CW, or maybe it's just not CW, but like very typical writing to include that kind of chip in the journal, and that goodbye message. It was nice. I'm not saying it wasn't nice. I'm just saying it's like the most cliche thing you can do, but it was a nice wrap up from Jessica Parker Kennedy. We might see Nora again. Apparently there was something like that being said from somebody. Obviously, like, they're going to give birth to Nora at some point. That may be it, but we could see another form of Nora one day. I mean, that's a whole other video, but yeah, nice message in the journal, but very cliche. I don't know, it wasn't hitting me as much as I feel like it should have. Can't forget how Cisco left a gift for Caitlin and how it was a new Killer Frost costume. I have to admit, I've been waiting for that because I remember Daniel Panabaker saying that she really wanted a new costume. Now they didn't show it, and that is because, guess what? They haven't made it yet, really. They probably want to still finalize designs. And all of those who've been wanting Ralph to find Sue Dibney, we got that tease with that Ralph scene when he kind of looked at that case with Sue Dibney's middle name saying Dearborn. I think that's how you pronounce Dearborn, maybe Dearborn. But either way, it's pretty cool how I guess there's going to be a story arc for Ralph next season, getting to know Sue before, you know, they get together by taking on a case of her. So that's pretty cool. Looking forward to that. And then, of course, everyone, the post title of The Flash popping up on screen. We got the new time influx incoming moment with Gideon changing the newspaper article to 2019. Now, this makes sense if you watch Arrow as well. Things are coming a lot sooner than what everyone had initially thought. Oliver thought he had more time. By the way, I'm like glad they included that, but I really wanted it to happen. I was thinking it in the scene with Barry and Iris looking at the message from Nora. I wanted it to happen then. I wanted Gideon to be like, by the way, Barry Allen, incoming message, incoming something, and then they see that it actually folds back the date. That would have been a lot more cooler, because because then they could have ended it on Barry and Iris being like, and then, you know, picking up season 6 with Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover only coming in several episodes time. But that was the episode, guys. So I think I enjoyed it a little bit more, believe it or not, than Arrows. You know, despite how this season has been, maybe it was just a Reverse Flash tie-up, but of course, I'm not going to lie to everyone. This season hasn't been the best thing just because of different multiple factors. I'm not crapping on this. You guys know I'm not. You know exactly what I mean. Was Cicada great? Not really. Was the plot holes, like, I'm not even talking about the mini plot holes, but the big plot holes, were they forgivable? Not really. But, like, either way, it was still a cool finale. It was better than what I expected it to be honest. And as I said, the Reverse Flash stuff, he got away. What's going to go on there? Well, we're probably not going to see him until Crisis, so even though there was no massive villain set up for the next season, I'm thinking it's not going to be Reverse Flash, and it's probably more likely someone else. Now, whether that's Red Death, I don't know. Your grandma doesn't know. Who knows really right now until San Diego Comic-Con. I'm seeing some people say like, oh, this finale redeems the whole season for me. With all due respect to people saying that I don't see how that's possible. Just one episode, despite how fan servicey it was with the Reverse Flash, makes up for all of the complaints the majority of fans have had. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, everyone. I would love to hear them. Obviously, expect a lot of off-season content, news updates in terms of the Flash Season 6, so keep an eye out for the channel for that. I definitely encourage you speedsters to join my Discord server down in the invite below this video in the description. I would love to talk about Season 6 and just Season 5 in general with you guys there. So definitely join my Discord server if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. Also like this video, especially if you got this far. I mean, come on, man. If you got this far in the video, I mean, what time are we at right now? I don't even know, but you're a loyal Boba freaking subscriber, so thank you very much, and thank you so much for watching my reviews this long. But I'm going to end it here now, guys, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you speedsters in the next Flash video. Goodbye.